Hello, hello, hello. Welcome to episode number 26 of Lead to Greatness, where we believe in helping others reach their greatest potential, and together we can change the world. Today on Lead to Greatness, we have Jacobi Lewis, the founder, president, and CEO of IGETIS. IGETIS is an innovator, designer of athletic apparel, footwear, and equipment for the sports and fitness world. In the interview, he talks about a pivotal moment in his life and just a tweak in his attitude where he went from surviving to thriving. This is a great example of attitude, how it can make us or break us. Please help me welcome Jacobi Lewis.
This is Cedric Francis, and you're listening to Lead to Greatness.
Point in my mother's life where I was probably around 7 years of age. My sister 9, my little brother probably maybe around 2. Where we were really struggling, and like I mentioned in the Macomb Vise area where we grew up. My mother and my father separated and unfortunately divorced for matters. And my father just pretty much left, and so he wasn't present for most of my life and our lives. And my mom found it quite difficult working 3 jobs, riding a bicycle to work, being a committed Christian, and really still helping to cultivate and rear us and into a life of service. And but I can't just credit her. She involved the community. There was a greater community, the church community, the family nearby that also bought into her vision of having her kids grow up and become something in life. And so there's this newspaper clipping. I tell people talk about how unfortunate and how poor they really are. Well, where we were so poor, we were in the paper for it. And
Wow.
so there's this newspaper clipping that I keep with me, and I read it every morning. It is a newspaper clipping of the Milk Fund in Lafayette, Louisiana. And it states the Milk Fund aids the needy or helps the needy. And there's a picture on the front of that paper of my mother, me sitting on her right side, and my sister sitting on her left. I think my little brother was too young to be in the paper, but they came and they provided a milk fund to us to where we didn't have food, and they would donate milk to us so that we would at least have some milk to drink with, maybe our cereal or something like that nature. And they came to our aid several times. So put it up there so you can see it. But I keep it. It's laminated, but it's of us, and then I keep
Wow.
it. It helped me to realize where we were and where, as her son, I wanted to take our family and ultimately grow.
Man.
Okay, so.
Wow, and that's so amazing, man. Yeah, and that's definitely evident that you look at it every day. So you look at it every day. What's one of the reasons you look at it every day?
I look at it every day for a number of reasons. Well, one is I think as we, many of us all progress in life, I think that there are areas and stages where we have a great desire to be of value, and we have a great desire to accomplish more. And so for me, God has been very good in gracing my life with many accomplishments. And so I keep it for one reason being humility, to help me to be humble about the accomplishments that I have. That one, it wasn't just me, that there was others involved into my success. Others have been invested into my success. 2, helping me to reach not only back, but down, and helping someone else who may have gone through what I've gone through. And so it helps me in those areas. And I try to at least find one person a day. I've tried to commit myself. I haven't always succeeded, but I try to find at least one person a day that may be going through a little bit of that moment and needing that milk, like I needed at 7 years old,
Oh, man.
to help lead a life or to live a life that's probably ideal and worthy of helping other people.
Wow, that's awesome, man. One of the most amazing things I see, I seen you do prior to COVID. I'm not sure how you're doing it now, but prior to COVID, man, I remember the Starbucks, Chick-fil-A, all around the Wilson Beltway area, man. Man, everybody knew you. The cleaners had your picture up on the wall. I mean, it's amazing the influence and the things you have done for people's lives, man. I mean, it's just so amazing. I mean, they have your picture up on the wall. I mean, you walk in, man. You walk in. I went in Starbucks, man. I mean, everybody like cheering when you come in the door. I mean, it's unbelievable. Some of the things I've seen, man. And everybody know you everywhere. Even the Starbucks in Summerwood. I mean, people know who you are. I had,
Yeah.
I was representing because I always represent. Man, we're gonna talk a little bit about your company, man. But
My company. Thank you. Man.
I always
Oh
represent, man.
man,
Hey, I got the hat. Yeah, I always
heartfelt.
represent, man. And when I'm representing Starbucks, man, people see the logo. They're like, man, you know Jacobi? And I'm like, yeah. Hey, that's your brother? I'm like, nah, man, that's my brother, but man, we good friends. And
Yeah.
and man, it was just so amazing how people, man, just people know you. People know who you are, man. How did that happen?
I be honest with you, Cedric. I think sometimes it's a gaze. I don't even remember all of it, but there are little moments that um that I do remember that in reflection, I've always made it a point. My mother, who was very instrumental back then and still is in my life, very instrumental in my life. She always made it a point for us um, to um, to serve others and to render ourselves in service of others. And I think that's when I learned more of your lead to greatness, right? The greatest thing that you can do in finding your purpose is to find your either your passion and your purpose in service to others. That's what lets you know the value that you
Yes,
have within you.
yes.
And so for me, I found myself going into Starbucks, going into the cleaners, into Chick-fil-A, really not doing it strategically, but finding ways to tell people hello and in a way to encourage them, in a way to thank them, being grateful and thankful for what they were doing for me. And as a result, they seem to have an interest in maybe me for a moment and saying, hey, I'm interested in who you are, can you tell me a little bit? And as a result of that, I found out that there was a greater need there for them, and I was learning along that line to help them in that moment, and I think it just pretty much maybe multiplied, uh, to a greater degree. So one of the greatest successes for me was when I had found out that Starbucks has this what they call a home customer,
Hmm.
and so it's the customer that makes you feel like home. And so they
Wow.
bought the regional directors and the district managers of Starbucks, and they said, "Hey, we want to really learn who the home customer is." And I think I had walked in the door,
Wow.
and so they had kind of said, "This is the customer that we aim to have every customer like that. That is our home customer that makes us feel like we're at home as we serve them." And I wanted to do the same for them, and so that's kind of how it.
That is amazing, man. Because I remember before I met you, man, before we actually had a conversation, man, I don't know, probably was 3 months, seeing you coming in and out, man. I mean, it was always intriguing to me. I'm like, man, who is this guy? I mean, it's like, it was just amazing, man, the way
So
people
much.
respond to you, man. And then really getting to know you, man, I definitely see why, man. You
And yeah,
have
and
quite a bit.
I think I think in some of the questions that you posed, which I thought were great. One of my passions, one of my first passions is a passion for people, and so that just kind of goes along. I mean, it's impossible for me to walk into that place and not to want to learn of someone else, including yourself. When me and you met, I mean, we basically probably shut the Starbucks down many times,
Yeah.
sitting and talking, and then me learning more of you, so that I could it could help me in my life. And so you've been a great encouragement for me in that area.
That's you, man. What would you say is the most exciting part about what you do?
The most exciting part about what I do is, and that's a great question. The most exciting part about what I do is being able to invest in to other people. That's the greatest thing for me. It's maybe kind of like a drink offering, pouring myself out, because what every leader has to understand about themselves is that we all have somewhat of what I call self-centered tendencies, right? Well, self-centered in ways where we're trying to, take care of ourselves, which is not necessarily a bad thing, but
Right.
given to a preoccupation with taking care of oneself, you can really live in a world where you don't invest in other people, you don't care about other people, and the most exciting thing is that I can get myself outside of my own box to help someone with or without resources, with or without, whether I feel good or feel down. Um, I can give somebody something that that helps them along their path throughout the day.
Wow.
Like Borton's gave us milk. I mean, that's the one thing. It's they gave that one glass of milk, or those few glasses of milk to help me grow. Ended up being something that cultivated a desire for me to now want to give milk, right? It just is a nutrient ingredient, right? Give milk to other people. They didn't know me. I didn't, interview with Borton's. They simply said, we want to give this to you because we have a great need to help the community. And in doing so, it cultivated a desire in me to say, I can do what they did. And I think as long as we do that along that line, then we help other people.
And what you're doing when you say giving milk, man, you do it and you do it so well. I
Oh, thank
mean,
you.
and I really believe, of course, we can't leave God out, but of course, for the grace of God. But man, you accomplish so much, in your career in the corporate world. And
Yeah,
man, I think it's highly because of your character and because you are a
thank you.
giver.
Thank
Because I
you.
mean, you then gave to so many people. I mean, man, people just it's like a give and receive thing, man. You give so much, or you sow so many seeds, man. I mean, it's just the harvest, just I mean, fruit just growing everywhere because of
Yeah,
the love that you have shown, man. You get so much love back,
yeah,
man.
yeah.
So let's talk about before we get into the business, man. Let's talk about just man some of the companies, man. I know you you VP, over several companies, and it all started off. Your career started off at Walmart, man. Just walk us through that a
Yeah,
little bit,
yeah,
man. This is
yeah. So thank you. Yeah. So really, I had moved into, developed a love for fashion and the retail industry, which obviously you can't serve in that industry or that world if you don't have a love for people, because you're connected to them
exactly.
each and every day. But Gap had given me an opportunity, so I was afforded an opportunity to work for Gap and Walmart. Gap and Old Navy and Banana Republic, and I had an opportunity as one of the lead associates there to move into leadership as a manager, a DLPM, and I was over the men's department, the baby department, and it went off for me there. That I'd had an extension at that point in an organization where I could reach people. I could share my love for people, my love for fashion, and then oftentimes, your love for sports. And so it was a point of contact for me to be able to extend myself and my life into other people's lives and help serve them. So Gap gave me that opportunity. I moved up into loss prevention, and then ultimately there was some promises made, I was told by mentors that, I really had the wiring to lead organizations, but I think sometimes at that moment where I was with Gap, there were promises that were made to me, and they were unfulfilled. And so I made the transition where Walmart recruited me, and within an area, I think within the time of 2 years, I was promoted several times into an area manager, one of the youngest in the nation at that time, to run Walmart distribution and logistics division. And so being there, I continued to grow, and I was also in Bible college at that time, and I found myself in a situation where I was terminated, and was terminated. I was thrown under the bus by one of my leaders, but I was at fault in part because I had failed to comply with some of the organization's administrative duties in the sense of complying to their rules and regulations. And so um, I was asked and interviewed by one of the lead managers at the company about an event that happened in which an associate of mine was not given a timely evaluation.
Mm.
And so Walmart had a policy where all of the evaluations, like me and you are sitting face to face, were to be given face to face, and we had failed in that. And I told my boss that, hey, I can take the hit for what we did not do, which prior to me entering into that role, um, it wasn't my mistake, but I was willing to take the hit. Well, they told me no, do an over the phone evaluation, and so I did that. But the next Monday, by the time I turned that evaluation in, I was audited by corporate. And then when corporate interviewed me, they asked me who gave me permission. Of course, I cited my supervisor, and then my supervisor responded that they did not give me the permission and or did not know what I had done. And so that was an immediate termination, which led me into being terminated for the first time in my life. And then I spent about 2 years working at temp agencies.
Mm.
I was just married at the time, and I just bought a house at the time, and I went to temp agencies that were paying me like $8 or $9, and I then fumbled upon a 2-week opportunity at an oil and gas company just to count their inventory. That led into 5 years of being given a full-time sales role. And then I was trained by the president of that company,
Wow.
which then relaunched my career into oil and gas, which led me to lead several organizations all the way up to president of DK-LOK Corporation. I was vice
Wow.
president of FITOK Group. Before that, DK-LOK, I was the director of business development, and then I was a regional sales manager for FITOK Group. I was the first inside sales project manager to run the North America, Europe, Africa, and Middle East for another company called Beta International. And then I was a sales representative for American 2 products. So that kind of led a line up. And along the way going up, I started to develop a greater desire to want something for myself. So my oil and gas career is still highly functional. American 2 products has brought me back as a high level director. And so I help and lead that company as well as other companies in the oil and gas instrumentation world. So
That
yeah.
is amazing, man. That is amazing. You said something when you were working at Walmart. And I think this is the thing, man. This is really, going to those little things, those characteristics that sets us up to become great leaders. Man, you mentioned taking responsibility for something that was
Absolutely.
not necessarily your fault. And I think oftentimes leaders fail in this area. Leaders oftentimes want to blame somebody else, to blame the
Shift.
team. But
Yeah.
I believe, and tell me your thought, but I believe that the best leaders take responsibility, because at the end of the day, it is the leader's responsibility. If the team is not where they should be, it's the leadership. And
Oh,
leaders taking the responsibility. So what's your thought? To help us with that.
oh no, I think what you're saying is great. I would agree in unison. I think that everything falls on leadership, and that was an area that I was failing at that moment as a young manager growing in a company with gifted, energetic, with inspirations as we all have. Um, when I was terminated, I spent a year of kind of settling in the bitterness. And I'm sorry if this doesn't make the podcast what it needs to be, but I was a real bitter person for about a year, because I continued to, when anybody asked me about Walmart, or when I went on an interview with a company, they would ask me, since Walmart is such a large organization company, they said, well, tell me a little bit about Walmart. And I would blast off. Let me tell you about my boss. Let me tell you about what they did to me. And I didn't get hired. and the reason was they said, well, this guy's an area manager, and for some reason we don't know about him. He's telling us about everybody else.
Do you believe that moment was the pivoting moment from failure to success?
Absolutely. Absolutely. It was, I remember the general manager of the division, he told me, which he was my mentor.
Hmm.
And so he said, "You're going to thank me one day." And I remember in that moment, like, I will never thank you for terminating me. My friend Cedric, I will tell you, if I had to see him face to face today, I would thank him for firing me. for terminating me,
Wow.
because that was needed in order for me to have a reality check about how I'm going to lead other people, because people are so valuable in life and in their own development.
Can you do me a favor right here? I think
Sure.
this is a good moment to do it. I want you to speak to that individual that may be bitter for whatever reason, that something happened, they were fired, they were lied on, in the corporation. Can you speak to that individual to encourage
Yeah.
them? Because your
Yeah.
situation, I mean, if you would have stayed in that predicament, you probably wouldn't be where you are right now, based on that shift. So help someone to lead to greatness community that may be dealing with that right now.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. One thing I would want them to understand, if they were in the place that I was in, is to understand that we are what I call all in process. We are all in the process of developing, and so
Like,
oftentimes we are more critical of our leaders than we are of ourselves, because we think we know more than they do, and that they're not growing like we're growing. My leader, for whatever reason, whether that was good or whether that was evil and intentional, that person was developing either for good or for bad, and I'm not responsible for them, but I was responsible for learning from them,
yeah.
and that I missed in that moment. Number two, whatever happened to you may not be good in that it happened to you, but it's good for you. And
Ah,
I will tell anybody that it's good for your development. It's good for you to be able to, in your desire to help other people, help them to see maybe what we call blind spots when we're driving. Everybody has a blind spot. I'm not sure if you or your podcast has ever been in a wreck.
yeah,
Whether it's your fault or it's not your fault, it's because somebody had a blind spot.
yeah, absolutely.
And
Wow.
I think God wants us to help each other along our road and discovering our own blind spots so that we can have clearer vision in the whole lead to greatness journey. Yeah. So I would say that it wasn't good that it happened to you, but it was good that it happened for you. And maybe if you develop some patience, you'll see that God is preparing you probably for something along the line or down the line that
Yeah,
will save you from this failure, or from the mistake that happened
yeah,
in the past.
yeah. And I've had similar situations in my life, man. Some of the worst. I mean, at the time, I felt
At the
was the
time, yeah.
worst part of my life, man, has turned out to be the biggest blessings in my life. Even in my leadership or as an individual, man, as a Christian, as a pastor, man, there's so many
Yeah, yeah.
things I experienced that showed me what not to, what not to do, which direction not to go. And
Yeah.
even some of the things, man, there's been points in my life, man, I was really hurt because of what somebody did or said to me or said behind my back and they didn't know it got back to me. Man, those were some of the biggest blessings in my life, man. Now that I look at it
Mm,
in hindsight, I'm like, wow,
yeah,
thank you. I thank
yeah.
you. It's like, man, you just want to go
Absolutely.
around, you just want
Absolutely.
to go around thanking everybody that,
Yeah.
that you thought you felt at the time offended you.
I mean, we're discussing here, the situations of life are not meant to make you better. They're here to really make you better.
Yes.
And it's a minority that often takes that point of view, is that
I
it's here
love
to make you better.
I love it, man. I love it. I love it. What makes a great leader?
What makes a great leader? We hear this said, right? I've been fortunate to lead, many organizations, and I'm grateful for it. I'm glad you brought this up, because I was discussing this with a friend who has a degree in leadership from the University of Houston, and we were talking the other day, and so what was mentioned, in a sense, is that it's the idea of character over credit. Most of us want to develop, let's just say, kids, or let's just say people, to handle credit. And we want to prepare people for financial literacy, which is great in it and be all, it's all great. But what if you develop somebody to understand credit, but they do not have character? Then
Mm,
what that means is that they would have resources in their hand that they now, because they lack character, can't handle.
wow.
And so character is the necessary component for anybody who desires to be a leader. And that means to understand yourself and our others, and where we all fit in the journey of life together, that everybody matters, and that in so doing, you serve others in order to discover more about yourself. That's true leadership, is that one's life is given to service, and in giving the service, giving themselves to service in the aid of other people, they now learn of themselves, which then gives you a whole definition about passion and then purpose.
Wow, man, that was mind blowing. I'm gonna give you a boom right now.
Thank you.
That man, that is so awesome, man. That's a great way of answering.
Because listen, I've read all the books. I've been told many times, if you really want to lead other people, learn more about just yourself. And I think that's sometimes quite selfish. That we ultimately learned who we are in reflection of how we treat and or lead and or serve other people.
Wow.
And so knowing that Borton's decided to serve my family and give us milk, I wanted to commit the rest of my life in serving other people and giving them maybe the milk of leadership, or the milk of management, or the milk of encouragement, or the milk of hope, or the milk of prayer, or the milk of sitting with them in a situation to understand how we both could benefit from what they were learning, or myself.
Wow. I don't want to miss this because I keep hearing you say this. You keep going back to the milk. You keep going back to the milk, or you on that picture with your mother and your sister. You keep going back to that story. And man, it's so amazing. And what I want you to lead to greatness community, what I want you to see, the things of your past, allow it to be something to help push you. Let it be your motive, let it be your purpose in making the difference, in the next generation, and making the difference in this world. Let that be your motive. I keep hearing you going back to it, and it's like, man, obviously, you're definitely motivating, you're definitely encouraged by what happened to you, and it's a big part of who you are based on what you've been through, man. So I don't want people to miss that you constantly, you keep bringing up the situation with the milk, and that inspiring, allow the things you've been through, even if they seem like the dark moments in your life, allow those dark moments to be the moments that you shine light into somebody else's life. And man, I think you're doing a great job with that today, man. I really
Thank you.
You're doing a great job. So man, let's switch up a little bit. I want to talk to you a little bit about IGETIS. Let's talk about IGETIS. What inspired you to begin this journey, and why?
One of the things I think that I guess gave me the entire inspiration was, I think, the overall development to want to help others in the aspect and the overall goal to leadership. That was one of the things I committed my life to that in many different ways. So whether that has been through the organizations that I mentioned earlier, even currently, like at American 2 Products, I've been given over to the passion of either helping our companies lead and grow, but helping other individuals. And so I have a Bachelor of Science in Organizational Leadership, and that then led me on into the areas in which I was wired, whether that be retail, oil and gas. It led me into reflecting in on really the passions that I had in order to help other people. And, sitting at a Starbucks table, IGETIS was pretty much born as a result of a passion for people, passion for fashion, and then a passion for retail. So this year has been pretty much, it's impacted everybody, I think, on a global scale. It's impacted us in the oil and gas world, and it's also impacted us in the retail world to kind of take a step back to make the adjustments necessary in order to discover how people are going to serve others. And so, for instance, at American 2 Products, for us, it's taking a step back to see, okay, well, how can we make adjustments to serve the oil and gas community with the valves and the regulators and the products that we offer. In IGETIS, it's the same way. It's to say, okay, how can we take a step back to make adjustments to the world we live in the world of COVID and social distancing, maybe reach people in other platforms. So that's probably, social media would be One, online is another area in which I think people have had to grow and, maybe upping the ante online so that people could really see the value that you offer on an online platform. So for us, it's been an adjustment, and it's something I think that we continue to make the adjustment to. We're still adjusting along the way. I don't think we completely understand all of it,
Right.
but one of the things that it's teaching me, and I think it's teaching our organizations, is that um, ultimately people matter, and we need to have a whole value for connecting with people, because that's what we're missing. And as someone who is in sales, I'm missing that face to face as much as we're missing,
Wow.
with this interview. I'm,
True.
I'm missing that face to face with
Yeah.
other people. So
Yeah.
we're hoping to kind of get back out. We're launching programs to get back out and hopefully see people face to face so that we can continue to aid people or aid each other in the journeys that we do have, which is, the common missions that we have in our organizations. Yeah, so the way that we started it off, we initially started it with the, kind of, we had a desire for like your backpacks and your handbags or your gym bags. We developed a relationship with factories that led us to develop those products.
Right.
Then ultimately that led over into caps. There were some sock features, and then we were moving into a greater relationship where we were developing compression wear for the whole entire body, upper compression wear, bottom compression wear, shorts, etc. And then as a result of the COVID situation, factories throughout the world started to shut down or maybe scale back. And as a result of that, that then lent itself to us having to hit the pause button and then our reevaluate. But we sold out of all of it. We sold out of everything. And so that was a great thing for us. So now we're at the stage of reevaluating our inventory, and then relaunching online for the community that's engulfed into sport life, or even what I call the sport of life. It doesn't matter really the sports you play, but the sport of life is important. So.
Man, I love it. I love it. I love it. I love it. What great insight can you give to the Lead to Greatness Nation to help us reach our greatest potential?
One of the things that I've kind of put is that I believe that in our aim to reach our greatest potential, in retrospect, I found that the fear of failure has killed more dreams and dreamers
Wow.
in the pursuit of greatness than the fulfillment of an unquenchable desire to fulfill their passion and their purpose in life.
Wow.
So, what I mean by that is that each and every person needs to commit themselves to becoming a lifelong learner
Yeah.
of what your passion is, and then which would inevitably become your purpose within the pursuit of leading the greatness. That kind of sums up the whole entire goal there. So hopefully people can get that nugget and learn from that.
Wow. If you could get in the time machine and talk to your 18-year-old self, what would you tell him?
Well, I think, in conclusion, I would love to be 18 to have the young body again. You know, that would be one thing. Give me my old body back. But
Right.
a few things that I would say is that you have nothing to lose but time itself. If you disregard and or you put off what you know is your passion, your purpose. So people are waiting for many different things to not pursue, and I think it's one of the biggest aspects that I would say, hey, I would talk to my 18-year-old self to say, do not procrastinate that.
Yeah.
Another thing I would say is that you are enough. I tell a lot of people,
Wow.
you don't have to wait for support, and you don't have to find yourself along the side of the road of many others, with regard to defeated dreams and their potential for greatness. You can start where you are.
Yeah.
And you don't really have to prove yourselves. I think one of the greatest things in leadership is that you don't prove yourself to anybody, that you simply express yourself as a result of what's inside of you. And then maybe that's a passion, purpose, maybe that's your skill set, and the things that you've learned along the way. Another thing is to never give up. Don't let anyone kill it. You're responsible for the things that live before you. And then one of the last things is to have fun. One of the things I would tell that 18-year-old is that sometimes you're too serious. Learn to laugh at yourself and to pack light, so that you can learn more from what's ahead than from carrying the weight of what's behind you.
Wow.
So have fun with whatever you desire to do.
Wow. Awesome. 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 Man, I love it. I love it. Last thing before we leave, if someone wanted to connect with you and what you're doing, where should they go?
You can go to a number of areas. You can contact me at jacobi.lewis@atptx.com. That's on the oil and gas side. But you can also contact me at you can move and contact me at EAGETIS.com. Go to IGETIS.com, and then you can contact me at Jacobi, jacobi.lewis@egetis.com. You can also reach our team at info@egetis.com. There's also a 1-800 number there.
Wow.
And then we're also connected in LinkedIn, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, under EAGETIS Sportswear.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Awesome. On behalf of the Lead to Greatness community, I want to thank you so much for taking time out of your busy schedule and adding value to us.
Again, I'm grateful that you've invited me on. I'm excited and I appreciate you, not only for what you're doing professionally, because I think the world of you, but I appreciate your friendship. I've learned so much from you, and you've added some nuggets to my life that I think I was able to come back and really kind of give your community. So some of the things I've put down, I've learned from you.
That's awesome. And this podcast was helpful to you, leave a big thumbs up. And don't forget to subscribe to Lead to Greatness if this is your first time. And also, I want you to check out our Marriage Coach podcast, the podcast with my wife and I. If you're on iTunes, please rate this podcast and leave a review and help get the word out. Again, thank you, Lead to Greatness Nation, for joining us on today. Looking forward to seeing you again on next week. Till then, remember, if you help others reach their greatest potential, together we can change the world. Peace. We out.